Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I read 17 books in the month of October and we're gonna talk about it. I'm super excited. I did have quite a few 5-star reads, which is really rare for me, and I am so excited to share. So let's just hop right into the video. So I started my month making my way through the Addicted series. I'm covering up labeled from my library, by the way. I did not like the first 2 books of the Addicted series, but somehow the third book, oh my god, I fell in love with the series in this third book. I gave it 4 stars, and then I started the Calloway sister series and fell absolutely in love. So I'm not going to go through every single book, but I do want to say that I gave the first 2 books like 1 to 2 stars, not good, but I gave Hot House Flower 5 stars. I still think about that every single day. I also gave Feel the Fire and Long Way Down 5 stars, and the rest I gave 3 to 4 stars. The Addicted Calloway Sister series is 10 books. It is really long and it follows 3 different couples, the Calloway sisters and their boys. And the Addicted series follows Lily and Lo. They both have their addictions. They're trying to help each other out. The Calloway Sister series follows the other 2 sisters, Rose and Daisy, and oh my god, it is literally so good. The character growth that I've seen through the characters throughout the books is so good, and honestly it gave me Magnolia Parks vibes, and I love Magnolia Parks. It's my all-time favorite series, and so the Addicted Calloway Sister series, they're 2 series, but I totally recommend reading them together. You can find the reading order online or inside of the book. They're just so good. The found family is so good. They're romances, but there's so much more to it, and that's what I like in a romance. I don't like really fast, cheesy romances that don't have like a ton of substance to it. But the Addicted Calloway Sister series, oh my gosh, I gotta say, Hot House Flower, definitely one of my absolute all-time favorite. Totally recommend it if you like romance. Okay, then I read The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I really liked The 7-Year Slip, and I've always wanted to read this, but every single time I picked it up at Barnes & Noble or the library, I've always just put it down for some reason. But I finally got to it. It was a short, easy read, but for some reason it took me a while to get through it. I just wasn't getting into the story. So this follows Florence, who is a ghostwriter, and her father died, so she's going back to her hometown for his funeral, and she finds out that her editor is a ghost. He's dead and he's following her around, and it's a romance between her and her dead editor who's a ghost, which sounds insane, but it was October, so I wanted to read like a spooky ghost, and you know what, it kind of worked, but it's just the execution of this wasn't amazing. I felt like this could have been a lot better, but it just wasn't fully developed as a book. But it was still a really enjoyable read, and I would recommend it, especially if you liked The 7-Year Slip. I know that one is really blowing up. Dead Romantic was good if you want to read more from the author, but it just didn't hit as hard, but it was a cute little book. Then that really got me in the mood for some spooky vibes, so I read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Like, I just had to read this in October. Look at how amazing this cover is. There wasn't a ton of romance in it, and I loved that because I'm really not a romance girly. But this follows Micah Moon, and she's a witch, and she gets called to this house that has 3 little witches, and she's teaching them magic. And it's just so moody and whimsical and just perfect. This is a rainy day and a cup of tea, and it's just perfect. It is a perfect mood read. I gave this like a 3.5 to 4 stars. This is not a book that I think about very often, but my reading experience was really fun. If you're looking for something fun and whimsical, it's not YA at all. It feels very YA, but the language is certainly not YA. But if you are just wanting a book to read that's not super serious and that'll just make you feel warm inside, this is the book that I would recommend. Okay, then I was really missing the Addicted Calloway Sisters universe. The authors have actually written another series. It's called the Like Us series, and it follows all of their children in the original Addicted and Calloway Sisters series. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read this. So I read Damaged Like Us, which is the first book, and that follows Maximoff Hale, which is the son of Lillian Lowe. And so it follows his love story, and oh my god, I did not like it at all. Like, I had to force myself to get through it. I gave it 2 stars, and the only reason why it got any stars from me is because we got to see the interactions of the original characters in this book, and I was just like so hungry for those characters, and I missed them so much. Like, I just wanted more, and that's why I gave it 2 stars. This series feels like the authors were trying to make it so different from Addicted and Calloway Sisters that it just was falling flat for me. The writing was falling flat for me. The plot was falling flat for me. Like, nothing really happened. It just wasn't interesting. I didn't like the interactions and the way the relationships worked with the characters. This was a no for me, which I was really sad because I wanted to read the whole series, but I'm definitely not going to do that. Next, I read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead, and I wanted to read this book for a really long time, so I checked it out from my library, and this one also was a 2 stars. I was really disappointed in this. Basically, this book follows 6 friends, and it's told in the past and in the present. In the past, they were 6 friends and one of them got murdered. In the present, it is a college reunion and they're all trying to one-up each other and prove to each other that they had the best outcomes after college. Also in the present, things start to happen at this college reunion, which could kind of reopening the case of this murder, and eventually they solve this murder. I was hoping for a really good payoff in the end, and I feel like it was 1, predictable, and 2, it just wasn't good. Like, the end and the twist at the end just wasn't hitting for me, and I actually really liked the first 25% of this book. I really liked the concept of trying your best to like show up and show out at a college reunion, because I feel that way sometimes, and even with like high school, and so I felt like that was really relatable, that aspect, but I also just felt like not enough happened in this thriller. I would recommend it if you're looking for a thriller. I read this in 1 afternoon, and that's the thing about thrillers. It's like you have to know what happens next, so I always read them really fast. And this one was readable. Like, I felt like I could pick it up and read it really fast, but the payoff in the end just really disappointed me, so much so that I gave it 2 stars. Okay, now for another 2-star rating. I read Hopeless, which is the newest addition to the Chestnut Spring series, and I absolutely love this series. I've given every single book 4 or 5 stars, but there were just some things in this book that I literally could not get over. This follows Bo and Bailey, and now I really wanted to read about Bo's story, but I just didn't really love him as a character. I didn't feel like he was very strong in what he believed in, and also Bailey kind of irritated me. There were so many things about this book that irritated me as I read it, but I can't really tell you about any of that because they are major spoilers. But if you don't know, the Chestnut Spring series are cowboy romances, and they're really fun, really enjoyable. I gave the second one 5 stars, but for some reason the way Elsie Silver wrote Bo and even wrote Bailey, I just could not connect. And there were some things like specifically that happened in it that I just didn't. 2 stars. Very disappointing. Then I read Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. This is Legendborn that I'm holding in my hand, but I read Bloodmarked, which is the second book and the last one out actually right now, and I read that on my Kindle, and I gave that one 3 stars. I wish I loved Legendborn as much as people do. I just can't connect with the writing for some reason. Like, I don't know if I'm stupid or what is going on. I just can't connect at all with the writing, but I have to say, I think I don't know which one I liked the better. I think I liked Legendborn better because I liked to learn a little bit more about the world, but I gave Bloodmarked 3 stars, and I think I gave this one a 2 or a 2.5. just because I was so supremely disappointed. I just find the writing boring. But I'm going to continue reading the series if more books come out, because I am curious to know what happened. But I just felt like the events in Bloodmarked, not enough happened for the amount of pages that we were reading. Next, I read One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, and I love this book so much. I literally devoured it. This is a library book, but I ordered the second one. I cannot wait to read it. I am obsessed with this book. I give it 4.5 just because when I was reading this book, the first 50 to 100 pages, I had no idea what was going on. I was so confused. I felt so stupid. Like, I just couldn't understand what was going on. And then right at the 100-page mark, it like clicked and I was hooked. Such an amazing, amazing gothic fantasy. So this book is about Elspeth, and she lives in this town that is surrounded by a poisonous mist, and anybody that gets consumed by this mist is like sentenced to die, basically. And the magic system is cards, and there are different sort of cards that grant different magical powers, but each time you use a card you have to pay, essentially. Like, nothing comes free, and that takes a toll on people. And if somebody gets all of the magic cards, then they can free the town of the mist. And so that essentially is the quest of this book. But so many things happened. Our main character got infected by the mist, and somehow she is living, but she had the monster in her brain from the mist, and it's just so fun. I had this book for a while and I was waiting to read it until I had the perfect time to read it, and it was rainy and cold one day and I just picked it up and devoured it. It was just so good, and I'm dying to know what happens next. So the second book is definitely going to be read in November. Okay, next I read the Mindfuck series, and this is 5 books in one. They're very, very short, like 100 pages each, and this follows a serial killer, a female serial killer, and she falls in love with an FBI officer, and it's just so fun and just edgy. And I read all of these books in 2 days, like super fun and easy. I know people absolutely love this series, and I can understand why. I gave it 3 stars because it was really repetitive after a while. She's like building up to like these big kills, and he is like working on a bunch of other cases and hers at the same time, and there's a little romance, and there's not a ton to tell you guys about it except that, like, it's just a romance between a serial killer and an FBI officer, and the tension is so good and you're just waiting for him to find out, and it's really good. I did really like it. I did think it got like a little bit crazy and super unrealistic, but it was fun. It was fun. And then the last book I read this month was A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. This book had been an anticipated release and I devoured it in a couple of nights. I did not like the first 2 books in the series, and I know everybody loved the second book, but I just didn't, and so I didn't go into this book with a ton of expectations. I just wanted there to be like a little bit of romance, and guys, I just fell in love with it. The writing was just so beautiful and magical, and I love what happened in this book. I loved the events that happened. It picked up right where the last one left off, and I was just with it. I was just with the characters the whole time. I loved the point of views. I thought that not a ton happened, which I really liked. A lot of people didn't like that not a ton happened compared to the other books, but that was a complaint I had about the second book, especially that too much happened. This was like paced really, really nice. I was just in it the whole time. The reading experience was so good. After I finished the book and I thought about it for a little while, yes, I feel like there should have been a little bit more romance. I did think maybe the ending was a little bit rushed, but the reading experience was unlike any other. I was really sobbing and crying towards the end of this book. Like, it just couldn't not be 5 stars. It couldn't not be. Like, I wish I could erase my memory of reading this so I could reread it again. That's how much I loved this book. So I ended the month on an absolutely amazing note. So that is all of the books I read. I feel like I did really good with explaining them all in a pretty short amount of time. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!